Ryan. So Ryan is known as Silent Aspirations on stream. He comes in occasionally. He's a licensed professional clinical counselor. Really nice guy, close friend of mine. I had him on the stream, gosh, when I first started streaming, like over a year ago. We played Octodad, and he answered a lot of questions about fatherhood and paternity and just stuff. So I'm having him back on tonight to talk more about fatherhood, dadding issues, mental health stuff in general, being a counselor, his experience with fertility stuff, and his work in general. He's also an avid gamer. Like, he games more than I do, which is really saying something. I'll let him speak. But he is a father of 2, soon to be father of 4, if I recall correctly. But just an all-around really nice guy. So I've got 4 questions in the Discord for him. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll have him do his intro first, talk about himself, explain his story a little bit and where he's coming from, and then we will answer the questions on Discord first, and then start taking questions. I've allotted about an hour or so for this entire experience, so I don't want to take too much of his time because, you know, as a parent and stuff, and he's actively working and doing practice, and I don't want to take all of his. I'll let him speak for himself. Hopefully we make this work. You can hear me? All right, cool, Zeph. Any questions you would have for me, feel free to ask him too. I mean, he's an experienced therapist. If you've got things that you would like a second opinion on that maybe you've asked me before, feel free to post them up in chat. His background is similar to mine in some respects, except he has a different license. But he's done a lot of the same work that I did early on in my career. But he's an all-around. You did think of something. Wait, he's an all-around really cool guy. So I'm happy to have him on stream, and hopefully everything works well, and we'll see where we go. 2 additional questions in Discords if I need them. Sweet. Yeah, I'm gonna try to clip over to Discord at some point so I can see them, and I'll ask him directly on. Popped out the thing. All right, got him there. Turn him up. We're a little bit on time. 9:40. All right, can you hear me, Ryan? On time. 9. All right, can you hear me, Ryan? On time. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, cool. Anybody out there in the audience, are y'all getting feedback at all? Can you hear me okay? And you're not hearing like Ryan and I overlapping? Yeah, in here, please. In here. If you could post them into here, that'd be fantastic. That's easier for me.
And then just letting everybody know if you can hear me, I have access to the chat,
questions? The Twitch chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, the Twitch. I'm watching the Twitch chat on my phone. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. All right. Let me switch to the appropriate tab, real quick.
Sure. I think I'm in there.
I hope. Yep. For some reason, chat is not showing up. Wing it a little bit. Is that okay with you, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay. We're just literally going to have a chat window with just us. That is not. Hold on a second. That doesn't.
Hello?
Hello? I can hear you. All right.
Okay.
We just want to have chats. All right. So we got a different window today. My camera is my crappy camera because I can't get my other one to work right. So, well, everybody, welcome Ryan in. Did you hear my introduction to you, Ryan?
No, I could not hear it.
Wait, let me turn off the music.
Should I just say, yeah, I did hear it?
Yeah, you just acknowledged it. Yeah, it sounded great, man. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Totally
No
problems. No problems at all.
Totally hit me.
Totally. I'm accurate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Licensed professional
What did I
couples
say?
counselor.
Couples counselor? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He was totally calling me on it, everybody. So I, in the advertisement, I had told him, I said it was a licensed professional couples counselor, and then he corrected me because yeah. So anyway, he corrects me and he says, that's not what it is, right? And then he proceeds to tell me what all of the clinical licenses are. Did you know that an LICSW is actually a licensed independent clinical social worker? Like, you're the kind of asshole that I love. Ryan,
I had fun writing that.
I know you are an avid gamer, like more of a gamer than I am, really. I think you play.
Sure, yeah.
You play so much. I got to admit it, though. You play on an inferior system. You play on the PlayStation 5.
I don't know if it's inferior. In what ways is it inferior? Do tell.
I'm just razzing. I'll turn down silent just a little bit. So
let me know if I need to turn down my microphone.
I think you're okay. I turned you down some. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why you chose to get into the practice you are, and like your gaming career. What games are you playing right now? What's your distraction of choice?
Yeah. So I would say that I stumbled into the field. I kind of knew I always wanted to be in it, but I didn't know what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a long time running away from counseling in my undergrad. So I ended up graduating with a communication degree and a psych minor. And I didn't have the confidence. I just didn't want to do it at first. And then right after college, 2 weeks after college ended, I got into what was called at the time South Metro Human Services, and I started working with people with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Wonderful time, and I loved it. And I just kept moving up, and 5 years into that part of my career, I was like, you know what? Hell, I need to. I think this is what I want to do. I thought about social work, but I figured it out. It was inferior to psychology and psychotherapy. So I went the clinical mental health counselor route.
Obviously.
I'm kidding. For those of you who don't know, actually LICSW is a highly regarded license. It does open up the doors for a lot more opportunities than licensed LPCCs. It's been around longer too, so it's got a lot of weight behind it. You can do a lot of things with that degree. But I decided to go the LPCC route because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into private practice. So years later, here I am. I'm in private practice. I see dads. I enjoy it. I had to learn a lot of dad things. So I'm a dad myself. I have an 8 and a 4-year-old. And then I have a baby on the way, due in May.
For some reason, yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really good. And then, yes, Brandon, you were not lying. I am more of a gamer than you.
You are.
I don't think. No, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. But me and Brendan are avid gamers. But as your Twitch audience knows, I know because I'm on your Twitch stream, like constantly harassing you and supporting you.
I appreciate that very much.
And
yes, indeed. Yeah.
And and just being cool. But yeah. So I am playing a whole host of games right now, and I'm in VR often
the
too.
VR
so.
stuff is wicked. I still want that so bad. I want VR.
Oh
man.
god, dude, did you hear that? I don't know if your audience heard or if you heard, but Sony announced yesterday PSVR 2 is coming.
I didn't hear that.
They announced it.
So
Yep.
there's this little part of you that's thinking, gosh, I sure hope that cues him to want to buy the PS5 and get the VR too.
You should be buying the PS5.
I know there's reasons why.
I don't know.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
I've been talking to Arrow.
That's
about
good.
it.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get the PS5, and it's not just because Ryan thinks I should. I have to. It's just weird.
No, it is. It is. No, I don't. Just follow my lead. I'll lead you into safety.
You'll lead me.
I'll lead
You'll
you
lead me
into
astray.
the
Is
right
what
path.
it is. You're gonna lead me astray.
Yeah.
I'll turn it down.
No, I would love getting into PC gaming. Could you borrow me some cash?
Yeah, man.
Cash
Totally.
money? Because
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I paid $500, and then I pay like the dollars per game. So
Yeah, you do, and you do have
it's
your
pretty
friend
top
who,
end 4K gaming.
and your friend would have to come with you too. Your the DM sniper guy. He'd be like, "Oh, I gotta do that." All right. So
Yeah.
enough of that. Enough of that business.
Me and a friend of mine game share.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, as far as the games that I'm playing and games I'm into, so Blood and Truth got a PS5 upgrade, just a little bit of one for PSVR, and then the other PSVR game I'm playing is No Man's Sky, which is obviously not just PSVR, but that's my reason for playing that game, like just being in the
Just the
first
VR.
person and driving everything around. And I wish I had more time to play the game the right way, but I'm in creative mode, and I'm just having a
That
hell
sounds-
of a time
sounds like a
with
blast.
it. I think that's my right way.
Yeah.
That's my right way.
So you kind of highlighted a little bit.
But
Sorry, finish up.
no, go ahead.
Oh, 'cause I was gonna say you kind of highlighted a little bit about why you chose to go into counseling, and so what exactly drove you to do the dad route over other things? Why specifically dads? What about dads really called your attention?
Yeah, so right after I graduated, I was like, hell, I want to get into this whole private practice thing. Where, like, how do I even do that? And so, for those of you who don't know, on Facebook I run a Twin Cities Mental Health Providers group. It's for like anybody interested in mental health or anybody in the field. And I just kind of put my my thing out there. I'm just like, hey, anybody got room for somebody up and coming? Because here's the deal, and Brandon knows this. After you graduate, you have to wait 2 years to get your clinical license, and that's after hours upon hours of supervision.
Like 2,500
And
hours or
after-
something crazy.
Yeah, for me it was 4,000.
Yeah.
And then or 4,000 supervised hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I think they
on
changed
top
it for
of
social
that,
workers.
you had to take a test.
Yeah, and then you have to take the clinical test, right? Make sure that you know what that you're doing.
Yep. And
Hey, Reach.
so but I didn't want to wait. I just wanted to jump into private practice,
Right.
because you're trained. You just need to be under supervision essentially. And I agree with that. I think that it's a good thing, but like, you know, everybody else gets to graduate and get their license right away after they take a test. So not in the mental health field, but in other fields.
Yep.
It's like, well, that sucks. Anyway, so I put it out there. So I got hooked up with Marriage Geek. Marriage Geek is run by Maureen Campion. She's a wonderful lady. Stop yelling at your kids. That's one of her famous. She's got workshops, and that's one of her famous ones. And she kind of took me in. We just talked, very casual, no contract, no contract thing. She just let me start working under her, and it was fun. Yeah, it was funny.
Like, here, you get 100%.
She was the one. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
she was just like, yeah, come join me. She just she knows me. I think she knows my wife,
Oh,
and then she knows me too. So she's the one that told me about this. So she said, "Look, Ryan, you're a dad. There is nothing out there for dads." I'm like, "What? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean there's nothing out there?" And she's like, "There's nothing out there for dads." Like, and then on top of that, there's male therapists in the field who are dads, but they're not putting out any resources or anything for dads either. It's just
Right.
like, it's just dry. And I'm like, well, I don't know. So I went home that night and I did some research, and she is right. A lot of the resources for dads out there target like, no joke, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they target like low income, like how to be a part of your kid's life once you're divorced. Like, just like here's some legal help for dads. Like, okay, but what about dads who are, in their kid's life and having a hard time? So I found a few things. There are a few things. The Face It Foundation in Minnesota, they help men, and a lot of dads gravitate towards that. They're a free program. Nobody in the mental health field runs it, but like, so it's a very ran community. And I've heard a lot of success stories. Even my current clients, I've referred them to it, and
Face It.
they
What's
found.
we don't have too many Minnesota people in chat, I don't think. Called the Face It group or what? Title.
Yeah, Face It Foundation.
Face It Foundation.
Face It Foundation.
So I just posted your link for Launchpad Dads through Discovery Mental Health in chat, so people can read kind of what you're up to. I really like the. I wanted to read some of what you said on your webpage. Is that okay if I do that real quick?
Yeah, please
Right.
do.
Let me see. So I liked that. This is the part that I like. So Launchpad Dads helps new dads with their transition to fatherhood. Society's message about parenting is damaging. Being a parent is natural and fulfilling, but many dads don't experience that. At least not right away. Instead, they become frustrated, insecure, and isolated. I've been a father for 7 years and have been refining what works through research and talking with other dads. I help dads discover their inner hero and become the dad that everyone loves.
Absolutely.
I really like that quote. And so,
Thank you.
speaking to your take as a father, you came into the field both wanting to make a difference in people's lives and driving yourself to where you're at now, and then you recognized that there was this huge deficit of resources that were available for you or for
Nothing.
dads. Totally a big deficit. So you came out and guns blazing and make the mark. That's really awesome and brave of you to do that. I mean that not only as a professional but as a friend too. I admire you for doing it. Impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Because I think, and I know like Patrick's in the audience too, and I there's a lot of courage that it takes to step forward to take on a giant project like that when society is telling you that essentially you don't really matter because there's not a lot of resources that are aligned for you as a. So it's good of you to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you saw this, you've done it, and so how's the response been so far?
It's been really good. Like the reason why I think there's a misnomer out there that like the reason why there's no resources for dads because dads don't want them. Dads don't want to do this stuff, and that's so not the truth. And that's so no, dads are like coming to me like, oh, I really wish I had this, or
Mm-hmm.
hey, let's do
Mm-hmm.
this. And
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
just like, hell yeah. Like finding the dads that want to invest their time into things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a thing like men don't go to therapy, dads don't go to therapy, and they do. They're out there, like there's a lot of them. But I would argue that there's not a there's more need. What am I trying to argue here? There's like we need more therapists working with dads
Right.
specifically
Right.
because the demand is up, and women can also see dads no problem,
Mm-hmm.
just like I can see moms
Yep.
and everything, but like it's just kind of like when you specialize in it, you're just more aware of the things. So what I would like to see is specialists. I don't care if you're male or female because there's not a lot of there's a lot less male therapists out there. There's a number of them, but
But there's a lot less. Statistically
lower.
speaking, the helping
Yeah.
professions are primarily female, which is
female.
unfortunate.
Yep.
Yep.
But if we could if we could be aware of these issues and start like tackling them, like we would be more effective therapists for the dads that are in need out there.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there's a
For
lot
sure.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you do, your practice is primarily targeted around dads. However, do you still provide services? I know you can. Do you still provide services to couples? You do couples. And then, if so, how do you think your work around the fatherhood stuff ties into your couples work? I suppose it's
Oh,
targeted.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I see many couples. Yeah. So to answer your question, it's really like one thing is like sometimes it is pulling. Like okay, how do I put this? Like sometimes there is a reluctant partner. Sometimes that reluctant partner is the husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the moms that I've talked to or the wives that I've talked to, they have thanked me for being kind of an open. Because okay, so I'm more. They have thanked me because they say that during therapy, their husband, as a father, connects with me, and they have appreciated me being able to kind of like facilitate both sides of their partnership, of their relationship. So also like when I'm trying to like they come to me and they're like, what's the problem here, like what's wrong? I
Who
being
says
a
that?
dad
The wives,
myself,
the men, or the women? Who says that? Like in the couple?
both of them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Both of them.
Good.
They're like, what's going on here? Like, why are we
Mm-hmm.
butting heads? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why can't, And so I kind of, bring in my experience of fatherhood into it, and kind of like, how do I say this other than like, there's ways that we need to be different in the relationship to serve the relationship better, and so me knowing what fathers are like, I bring that in, and it kind of like I've heard phrases like this, like, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense. That's why he does that," or "Oh, she needs Mr. Fix It. She needs me to listen and empathize." That makes
Who'd have thunk it?
I didn't think about that. Yeah, right? Yeah. So I would say that's primarily how it is. Like when I see the connection being made, because one thing I want to put out there is I am more of an emotional person. I mean, I'm in the mental health field. Me
Yep.
and you, Brandon, are probably both more emotional. And typically there'll be two partners, and one partner will be less emotional.
We all have
And
our roles in the
so,
relationships.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. But like the other emotional partner will feel alone, right? Because they can't connect and there isn't that emotion. So, anyways, I serve kind of both sides. I get the unemotional. So I get what's happening. I get the unemotional person, and I have tips and tricks for them to, be more emotional. But then also on the other side, like I am emotional, so I can connect with that emotional partner too, and I can connect with their depression, with their anxiety. Not everything is needing a diagnosis, like you can have anxiety and just have anxiety. You can have depression and just have a depression. You know, it takes a little bit to get to the generalized anxiety disorder or
Yeah. Yeah.
major depressive disorder. You have to meet the criteria for those things.
So
Um,
can I interrupt you for a second?
yeah,
So
no, that's
some
fine.
of one of the things that I kept seeing from the audience was that, like a lot of my audience either aren't parents or they're not in a relationship. Is there anything that you
Mhm.
feel like your level of service would still be able to provide them, if they have questions? Is there something that you would be able to answer for them?
Oh, I would say absolutely. Now, one of the things in just because I specialize with dads and couples doesn't mean I only see dads and couples. I see 20-year-olds with relationship issues or loneliness issues. I can't get my life going.
Yeah,
Like I'm just not there.
that's like
I
a
had
20s
like two
thing.
of
It
those
feels like.
conversations today.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And then like I see yeah, I'm seeing like a single mom right now and not in therapy and I see a wide range of people, but I specialize with fathers and with
Gotcha.
couples. Usually married couples with children, but I do see couples without children too. And so, yes, I can run the whole gamut. I mean, it's just a matter of like, I mean, uh, there's skills, right? There's
Mhm.
skills that we can be using no matter what we're faced with. It's just a matter of unlocking it and matching up the skill with the symptoms.
Right. Right. Um, I'll pause for a second and just see if anybody from the audience has any direct questions for Ryan about his practice or his history. Before we move into the questions from Discord, does anybody have anything that they'd like to ask? All a lot like 30 seconds. And I just want to say, like, thank you all for coming into chat today and listening, lurking, watching the VOD, whatever it is. Thank you all for being there. I know that there has been some latency stuff and some audio issues throughout the night, so I appreciate your patience. I know that it can get pretty frustrating, so and despite the fact that Ryan has that specialty, and he's talking about working with dads specifically, I don't. That isn't. He's a mental health professional as well, so we're all trained to work with a wide variety of settings. So if you've got something that you have questions, please feel free to ask it in the chat. And just like any stream that I'm participating in or I'm leading, mental health is always on the table, even if it's not the topic for the night. Tonight, it clearly is the topic for the night. So if you got something you want to talk about, post it up, and we'll answer it as we can. So, okay, so Zeph has a question for you. How long have you been a dad?
I've been a dad for 8 years.
And so your oldest is 8. You said, yeah, earlier. I get that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
what is the
yeah.
hardest part of your job at Dr. Deus? Is that for me, Zeph, or I suppose Ryan and I can both answer that.
Uh, Real quick,
Yeah.
what is my hardest job? What?
What is the hardest part of your job?
Oh, yeah. Um, uh, so I would say two things. One, I tend to see a lot of people throughout a day, and I like to do that. But I think sometimes the conversations, one after the other, or even with a break in between, it can get very draining. I would say the hardest part is okay. So I'm an emotional person. I like this. This is my art. This is my craft.
Hmm?
But no matter who you are, with if you're empathizing, that can be very tiring, and you almost take on the emotional weight. And we really, as therapists, need to put up boundaries
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't get totally clobbered by the things that we're hearing, right? Because sometimes we hear very shocking, hard things, and I would say that's hard. How do I remain connected without giving everything, right? Because I have a family, and I need to pull back some.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of that's one of my trickiest things to do.
Yeah, I want to. I'll reflect on that and just acknowledge that you said something that's very important for us as a stream too, and I think all of us as individuals is that our boundaries are extremely important. And so, just like you as a non-clinical person, using air quotes, non-clinical person, so you're not a practicing professional like Brian and myself, it is still extremely important for you to maintain boundaries. So as a clinician, we have to maintain boundaries really well because we have to be conscious of where we start and where the other person comes to, and how much we're going to let them in, and how much we're going to validate, and how much we're going to take on their pain. And that's can be really hard to do, especially in trauma work, which is one of the things that I work a lot with. So when people come to me and they've got like a severe sexual trauma or some kind of significant abuse, or name your poison, I've heard it all pretty much, and I can tell you that that can be one of the most triggering things one of the most difficult things to work with is like a significant trauma story, especially in regards to like really severe child abuse. And that, I think I learned that about myself because when I was working at the children's hospital, I would get all of the really significant childhood traumas. Kids would come in as being abused and stuff, and so I would see that as it was happening and witness it from the front end when it happened to the back end when the kids were taken away, sometimes the deaths and all that stuff. And so then now I'm seeing it in a clinical practice where I'm working with people in therapy. So I'm seeing it way after the fact, and I'm hearing about it like, this is what happened to me as a child. This is how this is happening to me now. And I can see the after effects, like how the trauma wasn't dealt with and what happened to the person. So that is difficult to do, but I also understand where I end and how I can maintain those boundaries. And so the question that often follows that one is, how do you recharge your batteries? How do you make sure that you're able to do the work the next day? And I'll answer first. And that is because I can come home and play with my kids, and I can connect with my community, and I can love my wife, and we can do these things that recharge those recharge my batteries. So it's really important for everybody to figure out what those resources are that can really help you to recharge. And so I'll bounce it over to Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I would say, like, we use the term sleep hygiene a lot, and I would say when I have exhausting days, smart enough to go to bed on time, right? Because I have layered times that I work, and so on Thursdays, which is tomorrow, I'm going to be up and seeing somebody, my first person, at 8 a.m. So I would definitely say going to bed. I would say that I need to zone out. I definitely need to like spend time with my kids and everything. Sometimes I get done late, so my kids are going to bed by the time I do get home. Not every night, but many nights. And I zone out. I use gaming to kind of zone out and just play that. And then I'm watching media, anything that's kind of like mindless.
Yeah.
I do read too some nights, but I find myself, it's hard to read after a good therapy day. So yeah, whatever I can do to be mindless for a bit, to recharge, disconnect a little bit.
Yeah.
That helps.
That's
my weekends too.
Your weekends too. I was just gonna say that's one of the reasons why I named this stream as it is. It's game therapy, because for me, it is my distraction. It's the thing that helps me kind of numb and detach upon at times. Not in a. Sometimes I think it might be bordering on unhealthy because we game a little bit too much. But most of the time I feel like it's a good distraction to kind of disconnect us from the world that can be a little too stressful sometimes and recharge our batteries. Oh yeah, and don't forget the dog. All right. So the next question is, what services would you have wished you knew about before you became a dad?
Yeah.
I guess it was when you became a dad. Sorry.
Yeah, right. My service. Okay, so no, I'll backstep here. The Good Dad Project is national.
The Good Dad Project.
Yep, the Good Dad Project. They have what do they call it? I think it has like a Spartan on it. They have a podcast that fits really well, and you just they do a really good job with that podcast. And then there's a second one that I listened to, but it didn't go dark, but they still have their podcast out, which I listen to from time to time. But Front Row Dads, and that is business family men with businesses instead of businessmen with families. That's their tagline, right? Because you need to prioritize your family if you're. So it's more for the entrepreneurial dads that are in a business, like in their own business. That's kind of the focus of it. But you need to know that you prioritize your family over your business, and
Mm-hmm.
that is something I absolutely agree with. I wish I had those tenants. And then if anybody's interested in any dad resources, it's not a service, but oh my gosh, Anna Machen, wonderful lady, researcher in the UK, researched fatherhood, why fathers are essential, and so she just has like a whole host of YouTube stuff and a couple of books. But The Life of Dad is the book that I'm referring to, and I've
The
read
Life
that
of Dad, huh?
a couple of times. Yeah, it's really good, and just kind of like shows why we're relevant and what function we play, what role we play, right? So those are some of the things that I wish I knew about right away because I didn't, and I floundered. But it's not a service, but community, right? If you guys are considering becoming parents or want to become a dad in the future or mom in the future, dads, you need friends that are going to support you through it. They don't necessarily have to have children, but they can't abandon you when you are doing dad things, right? Because
Right.
Brandon, like sometimes friends just kind of don't get it, and that's hard.
Well, and
But
I'll
you can
speak.
get it and not have kids.
Oh, totally. And I'll speak to the stress that becoming a parent puts on your personal relationships when those people don't have children. You know what I'm saying? How much, like, if your friends don't have kids, I acknowledge that straight away. I know with like PC, I was like, I don't want our relationship to be strained, but there's obviously this difficulty that we have because my kids take, my relationship with my spouse and my kids take 100% of the time most of the time. It's really important for us as parents to carve out that little section of yourself, little section of us, to be able to still engage in self-care and not always the boundaries that we speak of in therapy is the same boundaries that we need to maintain in our personal relationships as well as being a parent. So anywho, that was a really good question though. I like that. We went a little deeper. Follow-up question for something we said earlier in stream. Were we talking about VR for PS4 or VR for PS5 for the VR2?
VR2 is going to be for PS5, not 2021. I'm guessing 2022, and I'm really hopeful.
Okay.
No specs were released, but if you go to PlayStation blog, they have an article released about what they're aiming for PSVR 2. It's like one of their newest blogs.
Nice.
For like it was just yesterday.
Okay. So we're about halfway through the thing now. I don't know. I know you said you got your first client at 8 a.m. So are you doing in person now, or is it all tele?
Just telehealth right now.
Okay, so you roll out of bed at like 7:55 and jump into clients, or what?
Hey, Brandon, don't tell
Don't
people.
spoil it. Don't spoil it.
We don't want them to know.
Wait, they don't. You don't want them to know that you're just like everybody else.
It's not 55. It's like it's 7:50, and
Yeah.
I used 5 minutes to comb my hair.
Gotcha.
Okay.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't even have to worry about the teeth since it's all on Zoom. You know. All right, so let's get to the questions on Discord now. First question is from Sarastes. Otherwise, I think he's laser kick on the thing tonight. Laser, if you're out there, go ahead and post up. But the question was, my son has two dads. I hear so much about kids needing that nurturing mother's love. How do I ensure that my son gets his emotional needs met while being absent from the motherly love? Does gender even matter in this?
That's for me.
That's the question.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think, okay, know thyself, right? Know that emotional self. Are one of you? I don't know if it. I don't know if it matters if it's a motherly love. I would say that if there's two stolid individuals, because think about it, like in heterosexual couples or whatever, heteronormative couples, just because there's a mother there doesn't mean she has to be loving.
I think many
Doesn't
of us
mean
can
she
speak
has
to
to
that
be
point.
mothering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I, yeah. So I would say that like know yourself. Are one of you more on the emotional side? Are you providing that empathy, that love, that gentle care and gentle touch? And if not, it's like learning. Like, how do I be more gentle? How do I be more loving and affectionate towards my child? And I would say that like both mom and dad need to be loving.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's the issue at all. It's both mom and dad need to be warm and loving and empathetic.
So in your mind, it's not so much about the gender of the person, but more like the emotional empathy, the emotional intellect of the person, of the couple, and then knowing what role that you might play, and then being able to actualize on that role that you play. And
Yeah,
then at the tail end is ideally it would be that not only are we both meeting our individual role, but we are able to use those skills, because I mean that's one of the important things about being a parent, right, is that we need to be able to teach our children emotional skills, emotional regulation, labeling our emotions, how to communicate your emotions, how to express those emotions appropriately, and that it's not all on the mother, quote unquote, it is on the parents, and that society may be predisposing us to thinking, or may have, I don't know if it's still argument, but Laser, do you have any follow-ups to that before we get out? Or Ryan, do you have anything else you want to add to that one? Or
no, I
Isa,
think you
yeah, I know you're out there
nailed
too.
it.
So
I think you nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you need to introduce a female just to take over the motherly role. The traditional motherly role. I think it matters. How empathic you are and yeah, and how appropriate you are.
and Laser Kick, I know that is absolutely not the truth. So don't be lying. Second question comes from Avalon Faye. My husband has to live in another state due to his job and can only visit a handful of times per year. How can he stay connected to our children in a meaningful way while we are apart? Kat, you are.
Um, can you say the first part again?
Yeah, so now that my cat may have closed the window, hold on just a second. She was walking over the keyboard, of course. That's my husband has to live in another state due to his job and can only visit a handful of times per year. Okay. How can he stay connected to our children in a meaningful way while we are apart? That's a good one.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is a
Hey,
good
madam.
one. That's hard. I wonder how the kids feel about that. How if at some point you want to let me know how old your children are or child is, I think that's important. I think it's going to be a matter. You talking to me?
No, sorry, I'm rambling on. My bad.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I think that one, you're going to have to be like open with your children about what's going on, just so they don't think like dad, accepting your child's emotions about their dad being somewhere else. I think that if you want to foster that connection and foster that relationship, with just a handful of times, it's like one, like they need to be talking to their dad often, probably through like video. I mean, if they're a baby, this is very different if they're a baby, but if they are a
16 and 8.
toddler to
16 and 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're definitely old enough to
have
understand those things. Yeah,
Yeah, they
definitely.
can definitely understand that. Yeah. So yeah, the 16-year-old can contact. So it's really about like encouraging And here's the kicker too. Like, I wonder how the husband feels about, talking on the phone, and if he has enough to say, if he has enough words, to be checking in and asking. But like, it's really about encouraging that connection and that call to be happening when they're not around, and then the handful of times that he is around, I'm sorry, the handful of times that he returns, those need to be treated special. Like,
Right.
absolutely. Like, I obviously he probably needs some time to chill at home. I bet he misses his house and everything.
Sure.
I don't know what he does for work, but I'm guessing
The
it's
military.
something with insurance or.
Military.
Oh, okay.
But this is
Oh,
not an
yeah.
uncommon problem that so many families in the military experience. When
Yeah.
like I can think of Fret Father, who's one of our long-term members. And for those of you that didn't know, if you were here at the intro, that was actually the song that he wrote. Pretty awesome. Anyway, but like we have so many members of the military who come in and they visit the stream. But like if you're apart from your children for whatever reason, if it's I'm stationed in another state because they don't have a base in the state that I'm in, you know, and my family's all located in Minnesota, for example, but we don't have an Air Force base in Minnesota. We do. But one of those things, like that's an easy way to see how the family can become so distant. And it's really important to maintain that connection in whatever means you can.
I would suggest finding some. I'm sorry to say I don't have any material on this, but I know that there is something written out there. So I would go looking for like some sort of source material on exactly how military families foster a connection.
Yeah.
That's incredibly hard, but definitely, yeah, that makes sense. He can't be there. He's in service. He's serving.
Right. And the difficulties that imposes on families who are in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about it, Avalon, is that because it's such a common problem, because the military separates families like that often, even if your husband was deployed overseas, like if he was in Iraq or Afghanistan for 6 months to a year or more, it would be much the same of that estrangement. So what I'm speaking to is that there's that larger problem, and then because it's such a large problem, there's lots of resources that should be allocated to it. Facebook groups, social media support networks, all kinds of things that support families that are in that position.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I found a ton of info online about being apart from small children, but very little for older. That's not an uncommon thing either, really. What do you think about that, Ryan? There's just not a lot of resources for older kids. It seems to me more angled towards younger kids.
It does. Yep. It does. And I know that they're teenagers. You might want to. Yeah.
8 and
Yeah, that's
16.
hard,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because I'm thinking like there's probably not much on adults
Mm-hmm.
because that's not adults after people become after kids become adults they have the option to move out of state and
Right.
move away, and that's that yeah.
Even
But yeah, I agree that.
I mean, I know this is political, but or it's not political, but it's health wise. It seems to trigger a lot of people. But along the right to choose, like pro life or not, there's that same angle. It feels like people care more about babies than they do care about teenagers. Or once the kids grow up, there's not a lot of services to support the kids, and so I'm liking it a little bit to that too. It feels like there's not a lot of services that are around to approach teens. I don't mean this in a sexual way, but it's not a sexy topic. You know what I'm saying? Like babies are super cute and everybody loves babies, but when it comes to servicing teens and providing them support, there's not a lot of resources.
Yeah. I would recommend if your 16-year-old is having a hard time with it,
go to therapy.
Opening that forum and go to therapy.
Yeah.
Get it early because attachment is so key, and I don't know. Yeah. Just the earlier you start working on things that aren't good, maybe he's got a healthy relationship with the dad. I'm not here to tell you that, but if there is something up, It is
Yeah.
about addressing it and making it normal to address it, because so often I always hear about like, we don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about that.
Oh, all the
We don't
time.
talk about this. So pain and everything. And, there's a lot to just talking about it and having somebody, empathizing.
Yeah, Avalon says both of my kids see therapists. It's been good. That's great. I mean, that would be the
Oh yeah.
ultimately.
Yep. That's great.
That is a great recommendation. And then Zeph had commented that teenagers are kind of in a weird spot where that's pretty accurate too. Um, see. Everyone also thinks that they should be used to it by now, which is also accurate. That's what I was kind of alluding to. It's like, well, you've been in a family that's been in military service for your entire life. Shouldn't you be used to not seeing your dad anymore? No, not really. That's not very fair. I mean, again, that's one of the things that therapy would be discussing is coping skills and how to manage those emotions. Ways to connect to your father over the. I don't know. There's lots of things, but like I said, it feels like society isn't necessarily as fair to teenagers or kids outside of toddlerhood, because they just don't treat them. They're not as cute. There's not as much adoration for them. That was a great question, Avalon. Thank you. Okay, next question comes from Zafira. That's Zafira Lynn in chat, by the way. So she asks, my father is a very smart guy. He can talk to just about anyone and make small talk. I want to be encouraging when he does good things for his health and life in general. I believe he holds some resentment to my mother and us kids. We are all adults now, but yeah. He's physically here, but he checks out a lot. He chooses to not be helpful around the house or to not be involved in our life. How do I encourage him the proper way to be more engaged?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's hard. One thing we know as being therapists, like, if somebody doesn't recognize a problem, if somebody is like, what's it called, in denial of a problem, then they're probably going to live their life that way. There is no forcing in therapy. It doesn't usually work. People come to therapy because they want to get better, right? However, he might not know about this problem. And depending on the emotional maturity level he has, it sounds like his EQ might be higher up if he's good with other people. I would say, how do you phrase it in such a way where you get across the point of your problem without blaming,
right?
Without saying, without I'll give you an example here. I was chatting with my dad recently, and he's like, Ryan, it's been so long since we hung out alone together. We haven't hung out alone in a long time, just you and I.
Yeah, that's kind of cute.
I'm just like looking at him like, do you know my life? Like, anyways, I didn't say anything. But he could have also phrased it as, hey, Ryan, I'm missing hanging out with you. Can we hang out alone? Right? You see the difference there? I would have felt much more like, oh my gosh, I miss hanging out with you too. But he phrased it in such a, I'm the problem. And I didn't get defensive with him, but I felt myself becoming defensive with him. And so it very much not blaming your he might not notice it, but wording it in such a way that lowers his defenses is what I would recommend. He might need to know about this. But you got to judge if this is going to hurt the relationship, if he's open to receiving feedback like that or not.
Yeah, exactly. Zeph just typed an example of how you might phrase it. And so one of the things that we often do in therapy, and I'm sure Ryan does the same thing, is that we will role play out how we might express something in advance to kind of stage it to make it more approachable for you. So I mean, if it is like you come to me with a subject of something, one of the things that we're going to do is process that out in advance. Like Ryan was saying, when his dad comes to him and says, hey, we haven't hung out in a long time together or alone, and instead of feeling, and another way for him to say that would have been for him to come out with his feeling in advance, like, I miss spending time with you. Is there any way that we could have done this better, done more together, versus citing the feeling. And in this instance, what Zeph is saying, we've all had a run, and we'd love to have some help. We're all feeling taxed. Like, we're all feeling a little bit tired, Dad. You want to come and give us a hand? We'd really love some help right now. So you're acknowledging your feeling at the same time. So that would be the one thing that I would add. Yeah, and that's phrasing for it. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I like that. I like that question, and I think it draws attention to the ability for us, or the importance of us, to communicate our intention and our emotions when we're dealing with something that might be very stressful. Like when I'm dealing with my dad who is not super engaged, how can I encourage him to be? So, like, have you approached Dad about being more engaged? And when you're saying that, Zeph, you keep using these examples in chat about about more concrete things around the house, like doing the dishes, taking the trash out. I was reading your initial question as like being engaged with the family emotionally, but are you talking more of like the physical stuff around the house, like doing the dishes, taking out the trash and stuff like that? He's aware. He's very aware. If so, I still think
So
the
he's
same things
aware.
are there.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I, hmm. I'm wonder. I'm glad that he's aware. I'm just. Mine. Let's see here.
I love how you do that when you're uncertain how to respond. You say, kind of cute.
Yeah, this is me in therapy. This is me in therapy. Like, oh gosh, you just stumped me, you know? But one of the things is like, is he aware? Like, have you come out and said,
Yeah.
like, in a respectful way, like, hey, Dad, I really think that you need to help around the house more, or I know that would not come off right, but like, I've noticed you'd. I'm wondering I'm just wondering, why don't you help around the house more? Because sometimes we assume that somebody knows or gets the hint, but they also, judging by what I said, you never told me, that's what I hear in therapy. You never said that. And I've said it plenty of times.
Oh,
It's
yeah, I
like,
hear that all
well,
the time.
Yeah, yeah. And so maybe being more direct, I do know that, and this is more heteronormative here, but I do know that a lot of dads, a lot of men prefer concreteness, right? Tell me, like, they come to therapy for a skill. Tell me how to fix my problem. That's not always the case for everybody who comes to therapy, but dads in general are like, I want a skill.
Yeah.
And so what I've gathered is they want to be concrete, and so being concrete as you let them know what's up.
Yeah.
Without setting him on the defense. It's tricky. It's hard, I know.
A really tightrope we have
Not
to walk. Zeph follows up with, emotionally too, it's hard to handle at times. I suffer from seizures and have sound sensitivity, so he can get a little loud at times, and I try to express to him that stuff feels and it is generally ignored. How stuff feels.
Oh, that's annoying.
So sometimes the tactic with that is to establish you want to establish where you're standing emotionally, what you need, so you kind of declare that. Then if that person just doesn't have that buy-in, like that emotional investment isn't there with you, then you'd have to figure out what their buy-in might be. So if Dad's buy-in is, hey, I really like beer, then like, hey, Dad, let's go out for a beer later, but you know what, we really have to do these dishes first. What do you think about that? I don't mean like beer as in like, let's go get wasted. I mean like, whatever his buy-in is, you have to figure out what that thing is in order to invest him in the decision. If he's so detached from the relationship with the family, so detached with you as a person, or his emotions as well, then it sounds like there's a larger issue that needs therapy, possibly for him. Granted, that might not happen. He gets irritated and loud, and I go to him later and say, hey, that bothers me sound-wise, and it causes me a seizure. What's going on, and how can I help? I love that. That's perfect. Yeah, exactly.
That is good. Yeah, that is really good.
Great.
And you're saying you're feeling generally ignored, and I would say, Dad, when you don't change that behavior, I'm feeling ignored by you. Is that are you okay with that? Like, is that what you
Right, exactly,
want?
exactly. So are you intentionally trying to cause me harm? Is that what you're doing here? Are you really being that big of an ass right now, Dad? Really? Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know what your relationship is with your parent, but it's often good to be blunt. like Ryan says, sometimes dads, it's specifically really like concrete stuff. But I'm going to just say that some people really appreciate just that direct communication stuff, period.
Yeah,
And
there
I
you
think
go.
that's
Yeah.
also, I mean, there's very much like a regional thing to that. Like Minnesotans in general are not very confrontational. They are learning that very much in therapy now with people. So it's pretty funny. All right, let's move on to the next question real quick. Adria, so any tips for keeping your own emotions in check while your child is pushing your buttons over and over? Ryan, you don't have any experience with this. You want to just pass this question?
Yeah, none. I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, let's pass.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, no, seriously, what do you think?
Yeah. So a lot of times with parenting issues, there's a lot of books and a lot of research done on this, but like coaching kids through big emotions, right? Okay, so where am I coming from with that? Because they're pushing our buttons, right? Um, and they won't stop. Um, if you want to, like, how do I put this gently? Like, if you are the model, you are the one. Depends on their age, of course, but you are the model. Like, you have to be the one to, even though you're irritated, model that correct behavior of when somebody irritates you, this is how you respond. Um, you know, it's definitely different severity levels here, right? There's they're all over the board, and I would
Yeah.
say that like kids can borderline be abusive, and it really, I've heard just horror stories, but like in general, if it's just a child that like does it every so often, and pushing your buttons and everything, it's really about like reinforcing, keeping your cool, knowing what you need to do to unwind,
Yeah.
so that you don't act inappropriately and model an inappropriate behavior like you little shit, right? Or you're a brat, or you're worthless, things you don't want to be saying to your kids at the age that they are, because they're just, it's hard. It's hard being a kid.
So,
So that's one part.
yeah. So I want to interrupt for one of the things that we really struggled with as parents, Arrow and I. But one of the things I've been seeing in therapy when I've been working with kids and their families is that a lot of times kids really take it personally when they do something bad, and then they feel that they are bad because they had a bad behavior. So it's very important for us as parents to separate that. It's a bad behavior. You're not a bad person. You weren't following the rules, but that doesn't make you a bad person. You did something, but I still love you very much. That's okay. And still giving them the affirmation to know that just because this thing happened and you broke the vase or you spilled the thing or whatever, you weren't listening to dad or mom, I still love you. We had a bad behavior. It's okay. We're moving on to the next thing. I hear too many kids take that on to their inner core, and it's like, I'm completely worthless. They don't love me. And you can see them being broken. So it's really important.
Yeah.
Oh, and avoiding the word but, because it voids everything you just said. Avoid the word but. I love you, but. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I would just say, like, what did my daughter do yesterday? She was brushing her teeth, and then, she's 8, so she was just doing 8-year-old stuff, and she spits in the sink, but she like does it dramatically, and instead of spitting in the sink, she lets it go all over the mirror. I'm not joking. No, don't laugh at me. No, she lets it go like all over the mirror, all over the handle of the sink, and then all on the sink. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And I just like lost it for a second.
Yes.
But then I came back down, like instantly, because I'm working on it, I snap and I scare my girls sometimes with my yelling and everything. I'm not a perfect parent myself, and I struggle with anger.
Breaks. You're telling me you yell occasionally?
No. Can you go back and rewind? Can you
we'll edit that clip out. Don't worry. This isn't live or anything. You're all right.
Okay, good. Okay, good, yeah. Yeah, and so I took a deep breath. I was just like, I said, it's okay. Did you mean to spit in the sink? And she like kind of froze, and she said, I'm like, okay, well, let's clean it up. And we just moved on. But like, I thought what it looked like to me is she did it absolutely 100% on purpose.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
thought it was very much on purpose because
Yep.
I could just see that, Why would she, but it wasn't. But like if I would have just gone with my initial reaction, I would have just yelled at her and made her feel like shit. She would have internalized that, just like you were saying. Like, I'm a bad person because I spit accidentally on the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a
So I
bad
got
person, but
myself.
I've had this thing. I do this thing, right? And I could think of an example just today. Like mornings tend to be a trigger point for me. Like I get up in the morning and it's like I've got an hour and a half tops to get both kids ready and out the door and fed, dressed, brushed, clean. I mean, like all the things, an hour and a half, right? So I'm doing all the things to stage it and prep them and stuff. And like in the mornings, I've noticed like my kids are 5 and 8. So I noticed that one of the things that I'll raise my voice occasionally too. I'm not a perfect parent. I admit that. If you follow the Discord, you know that I talk about my foibles. But if sometimes I'll raise my voice, and I noticed it this morning. Like I'm like, my daughter was supposed to go get her shoes on, get her backpack, get the snacks ready, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're sitting there coloring. Like, come on, let's move. We've got 5 minutes to launch time. Let's do this. And I recognized that I raised my voice and I saw her startle. And then I thought to myself, every time I do these things, it has these little micro aggressions or these little aggressions that are wearing on her. There are things that I want to do better. And I recognize that I need to do better as a parent. And parenting is really freaking hard.
It's really hard.
Really hard.
Not an easy task.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of parents fail at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've joked sometimes like,
abuse.
shouldn't we have a test as a parent before we have kids? Maybe. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like saying you have to have a test before you have sex.
Yeah. There's some faith communities that'll say you have to have a test or, pass a certain relationship test before you can get. I don't know. So, let's see what else. Anything going on? I often tell the kids I work with that I care about you and do not want you to get hurt. So please be careful here because it is hot. Or I care about you, so please look both ways before crossing this. I don't want you to get. Yep, you got it. You listened too. Nice. Yeah. Isa, I could have sworn you were a perfect parent, Dr. Diaz. Yeah, no, not at all. I try, but definitely not perfect. If anybody's perfect in the relationship, like we were talking about earlier, the relationship has roles. It's Arrow is definitely the 1,000 degrees more patient than I. Much praise for her. A sex test, that would be a worthy idea, says. All right, we have one more question, and this one comes from our mod Llama Cycle. How can parents keep from losing their identities as humans? Thinking of mommy culture, where parents just lose any sense of who they were before they had a kid, and their life now revolves around taking their kid places. Almost like an obsession with no space for hobbies or relationships outside the home.
Yep. So I have the generator of fatherhood, I call it. And it's an exercise that I do to kind of demonstrate what's going on. And essentially there's like 5 characteristics that kind of, just kind of represent who you are. You're a son. Typically you're a husband, right?
Yeah.
Or this can work for wives too. I see dads, right? So you're a son, you have parents, you're a husband, so you have a wife or another husband. You have hobbies, you have your career, you have your friends, your social outlets, right? And then in the middle there's this generator, right? And lines go to each of the 5 characteristics. And I tell them, okay, so I'd like you to write down tell me before you had kids, how much power was going to each of these characteristics.
Yeah.
And they take a guess out of it. If you like split it up evenly, it's like 17%, right? Goes to each one. But then, smack dab, all of a sudden, you have, you put, you're a father, right? And the father then has a line that connects to this generator. And it's like, okay, now I want you to redo the numbers. I want you to tell me how much goes into each, right? And they kind of, I notice a lot of people get stressed by this. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't put 0% there. I can't, so they like try to like space it out and everything. So, um, my um, my goal in this exercise isn't to demonstrate the power, where you put the power, where you put each of the power. My goal in this exercise is actually to say, hey, you need a bigger generator, but you have to be patient because your generator takes time to grow. It's up here, right? As you become a parent. And the percentages don't matter as much as how much power output the generator can produce. And so the bigger the generator, the more meaningful the 2% to those friends
Right.
goes. But I just want to say that, so you have, your generator grows, hopefully it does, but also like you need you need to be focusing on that identity, right?
Right.
You need to recognize the other areas and why they matter and how they matter. And they need attention too, but I would argue not to the detriment of your children, but like I wouldn't say ignore your children because you need friends, but I would say you have to you can put them aside, they won't feel ignored, and you can spend time with friends. Typically with two parents, it's like that's what two and if there's two parents, that's a big advantage to having two parents. But people don't exercise that.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't put my partner through that. I feel guilty, right?
Ooh, that's another issue entirely. Oh, big time.
And it's like, no, you have to do this, or you're not going to be there to take care of anybody in your family.
Exactly.
Because you are depressed.
It's that airplane analogy.
So this is.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
It's that airplane analogy. It's like if you're sitting next to your kid in an airplane, and you need to put the air mask on them because you care about them so much. You want to give them that oxygen mask, right? But if you take a second to not put on your mask, you could die, and then nobody's going to be there to take care of your kid when the plane crashes. So it's important that you take care of yourself first, and then take care of your child too. And it's that metaphor, or that example carries over to many different aspects of our relationship. I love that your generator thing, and I'm curious if you passed that graphic on to me, or did you just draw it during session?
I have no. I have the generator and
Generator
everything. I
graphic.
haven't passed it on to you. I think that I have it online, or I have it. I just have a PDF of it. Um, I it gets across the point. It's not professionally done.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
But hey, it works for me.
Oh yeah, no, I
It
hear
works
that.
for me.
100%.
But yes, I do have a graphic.
100%. Yeah, no. So I've been tackling that one a lot too, because I've gotten a lot of parents that are much the same, where I feel like they come in after their newborn's birth, or like 8 months in, and they're like, I'm feeling super stressed. The things that I normally would do during my life just aren't working anymore, and I'm not, like, my coping skills aren't working anymore, right? And so now here I am, 8 or 9 months after, or maybe a year or more after, and I'm not working anymore. I feel down. I'm not finding any hope. There's like all the normal depressive symptoms there. Or maybe I'm really snapping with my significant other. Maybe I'm snapping at my, or whatever it might be. And it's totally there, right? And so one of the things I asked them is like, well, how much time are you taking for you? What are you doing? I mean, how much self-care are you engaging in?
Yeah.
How much of your identity before you became a parent is still there? I love Lama's question in that regard, because like, as a parent, we lose so much of ourselves. We're a dad, or we're just a mom now. Well, no, we're not. We're still a human being that requires sustenance, and that means emotional, physical, and nutritional, all the things that sometimes can get neglected from being a parent. It's super important that we take care of ourselves. And processing that with your therapist and figuring out all those little steps that help to make you and find your identity is extremely important. Or reestablish your identity outside of just being a parent is. So there was a question that was our last question on the Discord. Zeph had asked a question just a second ago. Back to it. Uh, I see a lot of stepfathers have trouble with stepkids and how they don't feel accepted. How would a stepfather handle that? I see a lot of that growing up. Seen a lot of that.
Mhm. Oh yeah, right. Um, yeah. Um, you know, definitely a stereotype. Um, one, a whole bunch of factors, are in this. It's like how involved is the stepfather? How ready is the stepfather to be a stepfather? How emotional is the stepfather? Does the stepfather also have kids of his own that he can relate with?
Right.
I think there's so many factors, but really what it comes down to, I think is like what, like I and it gets even more complicated too because like if the father present, is the father
Yeah.
absent,
Yeah.
the biological father,
Yeah.
right? Because you were trying to replace dad or dad ran away and like, but like I think it's like instead of just assuming things, it's like having a meet. Like, how do you say this? Like, it's hard because I've heard of the other thing where there's been stepfathers who have successful relationships with
Yeah.
their children
Yeah.
too, and I think it's being very respectful to the kid in what they would like to be referred as. Um, they would like to be referred as. Do you want to be referred as son or stepson, or do you want me to call you by your name? Do you want to call me by my
Oh yeah.
name as the stepfather? And then so like really taking the kid's lead, like, but I think what happens is a lot of things go unspoken, and it's like speaking those, right?
Hmm.
Asking,
In every
talking about
relationship,
it,
to be
having
fair.
kind of like a meeting. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes lack that. Like we assume that something is better than the other. But like for instance, my sister is married and she has a stepdaughter,
Hmm.
right? And but she doesn't call her mom. I think she called her Tiff, but the mom is present. But then I think her dad, my sister went into the marriage with my niece. I have two nieces, my step niece and my niece, and uh, and her dad is present, so he doesn't call. He calls him Jordan. That's how it works. But they have a very close relationship, despite her calling him Jordan. And then they have two foster kids, and both of them call my sister and my brother-in-law. They both call them mom and dad. So it's like they're trying to adopt. So really, I think it's like going with the culture of what the kid wants. What do you think, Dr. Dias?
Yeah. It's an interesting question. So I'd speak to the intrinsic motivation of the father, of the stepfather. Um, uh, let me go back and I'm gonna reread the question one more time. I see a lot of stepfathers have trouble with stepkids and how they don't feel accepted. So I would, if I were working with a stepfather who was feeling that way, the thing that I would be approaching is the intrinsic value of the individual as the person, the father, but also looking at like the long game for a stepdad. You know what I'm saying? And a stepdad being like, well, like let's. I mean, you have to make up an example in order to really draw upon this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if the kid is 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever it might be, you're working against 15 years of other father in the life. You can't expect to come into the life as a stepfather and just be fully accepted, you know? So I'd be processing on that piece. So how would a stepfather deal with that? And again, I like what Ryan said is there's so many variables to take into account there. There are so many variables. It really depend on a lot of things. And like Avalon said, are all of the adults in this relationship both on the same page? Does everybody understand where we're at? Like, does the stepdad want to be called dad, or is he okay being called Rick? Is Rick okay with the way that stepchild is speaking to them? If not, then again, just like many of the other things we've already discussed so far on the stream, it's about communications of our intentions and our feelings, establishing our boundaries and knowing where we start and where they start, and being able to communicate that stuff in the moment. So if it's an age appropriate response, would be like with a 15-year-old, you're going to be able to have somewhat mature responses with the child, talk about what their intentions might be. With a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old, it's a different type of game. You're going to be doing something different. But again, you're playing the long game in those instances. I'm in here for life. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be your stepdad, and I'm going to be here for you, period. And then what skills can I use to help myself feel better? Because I know I'm going to be feeling beaten down, or I don't expect myself to feel beaten down. That might be something I'm presenting for in therapy. Thoughts? That's my take on it. That's a big one, though.
Well said. Well said.
I'm not gonna lie, Madame says. When I look to date, I won't date a guy with kids older than 7. Reason being, I can still win over anyone under 7 for long enough that by the time they get to the "you're not my mom" stage, we already have a good relationship. Fair. I mean, it's the takeaway from that is like, I'm not trying to be your mom. I just want to be in your life. I just want to be a part of your life. I don't want to replace your mom. I want to be here for you. Your mom's not here right now, and I'm sorry, that sucks, but I want to be here for you, period. That's pretty much it. Yeah, and I commend people in that boat. I know we have a member. I'm not sure if she's in the audience tonight. I know we have a member who's a single mom raising 4 kids, and I know that how hard it is for single parents, period, to raise kids. Any tips for parents in general on how to kind of make things work? Ryan, how can they make things work?
Make things work in their family, right?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, it would be hard with 4 kids under the age of 8, and being a single parent.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't have much hair left, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I'd have very much hair. What tips would you have for a parent in that situation? Like, what kind of self-care routines, what kind of things would you have to help, like, what would you say to somebody in that boat? Like, what kind of therapeutic techniques would you throw at them?
Just because you're just because you're a single parent doesn't mean you have to do this alone, right? Like,
yeah, right.
You actually can't do this alone. Like, well, you can. It
takes a
gonna
village.
be really hard. So you might want somebody to be there.
Yeah.
Some people to be there in your life, right?
So use your supports. Rally your village.
Yeah, rally your village. Setting firm boundaries with them, and the way that I think Brandon mentioned them earlier, but the way that I like to talk about boundaries is like you set it as close or as far away from you as you want, and you want people to get right up to that line, right up to that boundary line, but you don't want them to cross over.
Right.
And it's like knowing what crossing over and knowing what it means to be up at the line. So supports the line, the boundary line. Gosh, I have to say, like, do you know? It's like you probably do by now. They're all under the age of 8, but like know your parenting style and know about parenting, right? No, and I'm sure you do, but like, what resources are out there that can help enrich my parenting style so that I'm not, leading people astray here? Because when I'm going over, in couples therapy, I know it's a single mom here, but like in couples therapy, I always talk about how it's the parents have to be on the same page or similar pages because they lead the family, or they lead and the family follows. Their kids aren't supposed to be leading the parents, right?
Right.
It's the other way around. And I would say same with a single mother, but like, how do you get ahead? How do you lead? How do you lead them? And so it's like knowing that path you need to take. So supports, boundaries, and definitely knowing the parenting path, and yeah.
I would add to that. Those are all great points. Self-care is extremely important. I harp on self-care a lot, especially on Discord. How do you do it with 4 kids? I know, like, where do you find time to eat? I mean, come on, you're a fucking superhero. Like, I can't even imagine. So, Mad props.
Yeah.
So
Superhero.
the like rally your village, use your supports, use your self care as much as you can. It's ideally we don't want to parentify our kids, so they're hoping to take care of them, especially at that age. But we also recognize that there's going to be more maturity in those kids because, like I said earlier, Ryan, is that all of us in the relationships we all have our roles, like systems theory, right? I mean, everybody or like everybody has their respective role, and that's how that relationship's going to function. So, tapping into the more mature kid, even if it's the 5-year-old, to help rally the troops to figure out what that's it. Good broadcast. All right, good night, buddy. But anyway, I felt like I had to ask that question. I know that's not your forte specifically, but I know that that's one of those target issues for someone in the audience, and I wanted to honor them by asking that question. And I have used up a lot of your time tonight, and we've gone a little bit over. Do you have any other follow up for the audience, or does anybody have any more follow up questions for Ryan before we let Ryan go?
Yeah, what the hell, man? You used up a lot of my time.
And you only went through one
No,
beer
it's
after
fine.
all of that. It's amazing.
I know I paced myself well.
You did. Good job.
I do have something, Brandon. Earlier on, I was talking about the games that I was playing.
Yeah.
And I talked about PSVR, but I don't just play PSVR. And we moved on, right?
Did, yeah. Did I invalidate you?
And so I was just gonna. No, you didn't. Okay, no, you didn't invalidate me. No, but I am playing some other games. So, just real quick, is anybody out in the audience? Are they playing Cyberpunk? I know there's a lot of hate going on in that community, but I fucking love that game.
Yeah.
So I'm playing that. I'm near the end. I need to get back and wrap that up. Playing Destruction All Stars.
I haven't heard of that
which
one.
is like a it's fun. It's like a destruction derby, but you can get out of the car and you run around the map while there's cars like ramming into other people and ramming into other cars, and
That sounds super fun.
it's
in
pretty
like
fun.
VR.
You should watch it.
In virtual reality, that'd be way
Yeah,
cool.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah, it's a PS5 game, though. But yeah, it would be fun in VR. And then I'm playing Hunt.
We've been
playing Hunt?
Yeah, and I told you, Ryan. I think we've been playing that eco survival game. I told you about it the other day. Like a super Minecraft.
Yeah.
So you may have seen the message pop up on chat. We have a community server that folks can come on and play. And so Laser's been playing it pretty much every day for like the last month, I'm guessing, right, Laser, something like that. And so he's like one of 2 people that log in and still play. And so we're like, he's not going to play anything else. Poor guy. Anyway.
But yeah. Those are
Nice.
what I'm playing. So
I'm waiting for the Cyberpunk not the collector's edition. Sorry, I just read Avalon's statement. The Cyberpunk Game of the Year edition before I go and buy it.
Dude, you're looking like
I know.
you're looking a long time away.
But it'll all be
man.
patched.
Dude, you're playing on like a top-notch PC. I don't think you have to worry about bugs anymore.
Really, you think?
I think you're good.
All right.
Oh yeah, that was the PS4, right? PS4 and Xbox.
It's about
One?
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Avalon with the kids at home too, and then you could only play so many hours a week. And I'm pushing people to come on and play Eco with us all the time. So I'm like, come on down, work, do the things, So anyway, yeah, I appreciate the time we sink. I'm glad you enjoyed Cyberpunk, man. I know a lot of people have really said bad things about it, but I watch a lot of streamers because I'm really active on Twitch, and I can tell you, it looks like such a fun game. It really does.
It's great.
I'm always interested to hear what people's distractions are. One thing that I've been seeing a lot of from my streamer friends lately is Valheim has been really big, which we're now running a community server for.
Yeah.
But also
You are?
like just the nostalgia factor. Like everybody's been jumping into the nostalgia stuff. People loving playing the old games. A lot. Really digging that. At least it'll work, yeah. Any other questions for Ryan before we let him go? Otherwise, Ryan, I want to thank you for the time, dude. You've been awesome. And it's been fun. Great. This is better than the first time we did this, right? I mean, because last time I was just like, I've got his voice maybe. Can I hear him slightly in the background? Because it was like right when I first started streaming. So I'm slightly adapting. I mean, I know you do come into the stream and you do come to the stream and see how things are going, but this is like the what, third or fourth interview I've actually done live on stream. So you're two of the four so far. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great. I'd love to come back and talk more about anything in the mental health field.
Sweet.
As we discussed. Yeah, no, thanks for having me tonight. And, I update the Launchpad Dad's website. So if you want to stick to discoverymentalhealth.com, that's my site. And then I have, for those dads who are out there, I do have a dad's group that we meet online weekly on Tuesdays that Brandon will be speaking at.
Oh yeah, we traded. I forgot.
And so, yeah.
I was like, what am I going to get him for participating in the stream? Oh wait, shit! I have to go talk to this thing.
Yeah. So we have it's just a place for dads to come and chat about being a dad and current events and shit like that. It's a good time. So if anybody's interested, they can get a hold of me.
Wait, you want to post the link for? Is that just Launchpad Dads or what? You want to post it in chat so everybody can click it if they want, or what?
The link for what?
Your group. Is that all through Launchpad Dads through Discovery Mental Health?
Yeah, I just need your name and your number, and
Okay.
then you need to sign into the chat, and I can get you the chat, the chat link. I do keep it kind of private.
Oh, I hear you. Okay, cool.
Until somebody joins.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in it, just hit me up and I'll get with Ryan and get it for you.
There's a web page for my group if you haven't noticed. It's free to join too. I just do this. It's $0, so no insurance or anything.
Cool.
All
right. Well, thanks, buddy. Have a good night. Good luck on your clients tomorrow.
Well, thank you, and thanks everyone. Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Peace out. Later, dude. All right. Well, guys, that was fun, huh? Good times. Did you like that? Was that fun for everybody? I like that. That was a good time for me. I don't get to have my friends come on stream very often. Madam Rainbow Pants, happy birthday. I know I announced that early on, but happy birthday. Thank you for being here on your birthday stream. Did you do baking? I know you were talking about doing some baking or something when you came home tonight, or doing something celebratory. Are you not? So did you all enjoy that? It was yesterday. Oh, I did pop in briefly. I wasn't there for the whole thing, though. Do you like that, Blob? I want to just reflect on a lot of the things that Silent said were boundaries, really important for everybody, and that self-care seems to echo through a lot of the stuff, and communication. I harp on that a lot on the Discord. We're always really trying to tie that in and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And I know that the active life that we as parents, and I'm going to tie it into, I was going to ask this question too, just like about being a puppy parent, like having our fur babies, because I know not all of us have human babies, but how that piece, how does that work for you as a parent of a fur baby? I know they don't put as much burden on you as a kid does, but it still can be pretty heavy at times, like all of the responsibility, especially if you've got like a coexisting condition, like you've got severe anxiety or major depression, and how are you taking care of your babies and that kind of stuff. It was nice to hear from Ryan. Great. Something celebratory. That's the story of my life. And I mean, and the acknowledgement too, like I harp on self-care and all these things, but we can't, it's really hard to do self-care when we're surrounded by COVID. We can't get out and do, making sure that we find those little pieces of it. Is the sound okay? I was just turning the music on. I want to make sure it's powered. Anywho, we're just under 2 hours. How about we finish some, I know Llama already logged out for the night, but we can play some Life is Strange to kind of wrap up the rest of the time. Because I think on Saturday, we're probably going to play some Jackbox, because it's been like 2 weeks I played Jackbox. maybe 2.5. So, what do you think? Life is Strange? Community games? Let's do that. Let's do some Life is Strange. I feel like playing some Life is Strange because we're just starting episode 3 on Life is Strange right now. But thank everybody for hanging out and playing with us tonight. Playing with us by answering all those darn questions and stuff. It was awesome. Changing scenes. I'm hot for some. Hot in here. Cool. How are you, Dre? I haven't seen you in a bit. I know you've been hanging out with Sumpta a lot, doing some ARC